Now, you've identified who you want to work on in the course of this program. So let's get started. There are 4 different styles of interaction that I'd like to portray for you. And have you be thinking, the people who you identified, those relationships, which of these interactions describe the nature of your relationship with those individuals? Let's start over here. This is the side of the road. And this is a table on the side of the road. You haven't ever seen that table there before, but you're walking along one day, you see it. Something on the table catches your eye. This is you. You go towards the table. You have a moment of interaction, seeing what's there on the table. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. And then you move on. Okay. If you like what you see, maybe you buy it. If you don't like what you see, you just walk away. I call this kind of interaction a one-shot deal. Right? A one-shot deal. Because you go back tomorrow, the table may not even be there tomorrow. What you saw on the table may not be there 5 minutes later. Right? If you start asking too many questions, the person behind the table could look at you and go, hey, take it or leave it. Right? You go, well, you know, that's interesting. Can you tell me a little more about it? And he goes, hey, what you see is what you get. You go, well, I'll think about it. I'll come back tomorrow. He goes, hey, lady, here today, gone tomorrow. Right. So all of these phrases have led to one more phrase, which is originally said in Latin. It says caveat emptor. Stands for what? Let the buyer beware. Huh? And that's appropriate. Because when you've got a one-shot deal, you don't even know if they're going to be around when you come back the next day. That's different from this. What's that? Now, some people look at that and say, "Oh, well, it's a roundabout. You know, it's a circle. It's a loop. I use this to signify an interaction that I call a transaction, because it has a beginning, a happening, and then you go back out the same way you came. So I'm going to put that one down and call it a transaction. A good example of a transaction like this would be if you decide to go out and buy yourself a bottle of juice. Now you've got to decide where to go to get the juice. So maybe you remember an advertisement you saw in the newspaper. Or the last time as you were driving home, you drove by a grocery store and you saw an advertisement in the window about the juice that they had for sale. So you, in your mind, pick where you're going to go for the juice. You've already seen some ads. Now you drive up to the parking lot and you get out. As you walk through the parking lot, you notice the parking lot is either clean or it's not. You get to the front door. The front door either goes shh, or you have to push it and it goes eh. Either way, you're going to notice this because it's all at the beginning of the transaction. Now you walk inside. First thing you notice is it air conditioned or not? Are they playing music or not? Can you easily find where the juices are for sale? Ah, they're over there. Or is it hard to locate? Now you walk over, and there's the selection of juice. Is it a nice selection or not? Now we're moving into the transaction a little further. Do they have good variety or just a few? You look at the prices. Are the prices reasonable or not? You look at the expiration date. Are they fresh juices or are they not? And then you make your choice. Now you've got your juice and you start to walk back to the cash register. As you walk through the store, do you have to dodge the boxes that are in the hallway or not? Is it nice and clean? When you get there, does the person give you exact change correctly or not? Do they smile and say thank you or not? When you go back out into the parking lot, is your car still there? Not. It's a transaction. If you have a good experience with that transaction, you might go back to that same store again and buy vegetables. You might go there another time to buy a loaf of bread. In other words, if you enjoy the transaction, you could go back a second time or even a third time, because you would have experienced what I call transaction satisfaction. Transaction, satisfaction. Now the whole customer service movement, the whole customer focus, customer obsession, serve the customer, total customer satisfaction that's been really alive in the past several years has been about this. And what they've been talking about is each of these key points along the way. I call them perception points. They're points along the way where a customer can form a perception about your organization. If there are a number of good ones, they're satisfied. If they're not good, they're not satisfied, they just don't come back. Jan Carlson, the former president of Scandinavian Airline Systems, wrote a book called Moments of Truth. And in that book, he said each one of these is a moment of truth between you and your customer, where they can form an impression about the organization. Our job, he said, was to make sure that each of these moments of truth or perception points were good. Why? Because then the customer would come back.